Hello everyone, this is my son's 2002 Nissan Sentra with a 1.8 liter in it. At 147,000 miles, I diagnosed that the timing chain was stretched. It cranked and wouldn't start, or would finally start, but it was a hard start. And I had P0335 for the crankshaft position sensor. And I took a lot of diagnosing, but I figured out it was the timing chain was stretched. So here we go, the same thing again at 190,000 miles. So I don't know why the chain is stretching. I don't know if whatever oils it, it's not getting oiled properly or what, but anyway, you might also see P0340 for the camshaft position sensor. That popped up here recently also. Of course, if you've got a crank or no start or hard start, it could be several other things like fuel pressure. You need to check that. You need to check for spark. Could have a bad vacuum leak. There's several things it could be, but there's a few clues that might point you to this. I did a compression test on it and had low compression on all four cylinders from 102 to 110 psi. Minimum should be up there about 140 or 50, and a good cylinder is about 180 or more. Of course, there could be other causes for low compression, but compression test is easy to do on these engines, so it might be a clue to check the timing chain for being stretched. The reason the compression's low, in my opinion, on this is because since it's stretched, then both camshafts are retarded and it can't breathe properly, so it can't build proper compression. Also, it was sluggish, kind of low power. Let's see what other symptoms were there. I guess that's about it. Anyway, I'll show you how to check for a stretched timing chain. It's pretty easy to get the valve cover off. Of course, you've got 4 coil-on plugs that sit down in here. I've got these 3 removed already. They take a 10mm socket, take the bolts out, push down on this button here, unplug your coil-on plugs, and then pull them up out of there. I've got the spark plugs out of this, so you may have to pull on them a little bit hard to get them out. And then also there is a hose right here. I've got it partially removed. It goes to the PCV valve, and then it goes to the intake. So remove it. And then there's a hose right here on the valve cover. I've got the clamp slid up out of the way. Remove that, set it aside. And then there's Phillips screws around the perimeter of the valve cover all the way around, so look for those. Remove those. And the valve cover might be stuck. You might need to put a flat-bladed screwdriver, like on this corner right here, kind of get under it, pry up on it, same way in this area. Valve cover's plastic, so be careful not to crack it or break it. And then it should come off. Okay, this is gonna be kind of hard to see, but what you need to do, sorry about that. Trying to turn my flashlight on. Okay, we're looking down here at the crankshaft pulley, which takes a 27mm socket to rotate it, and the easiest way is to go up under the wheel well. I've got the tire turned all the way to the right. Under the wheel well, which I have it back together already, is this plastic splash shield. You can just take several bolts out here on the side, and then it was half broke anyway, so I just pulled it down and kind of folded it up under the car, and it was out of the way. And the crank bolt's about right in there. If you have a real long extension, you can get onto the crank bolt with a long extension and a 1/2" drive ratchet out here. And you need to turn the crank pulley clockwise as you're looking at the front of the engine. If you can see this down in here. See that red triangle? I painted that red. That is a pointer on the front cover of the engine, and it's pointing to a red notch, if you can see it, on the edge of the crankshaft pulley, which is right below it. I tried to paint that notch red. I don't know if you can tell. If you can't see the color, then when you're looking at the pulley, there's 6, maybe you can probably see the notches easier. There's 6 notches, and the second one from the left is top dead center. So line that up with that pointer, and I have that lined up. And then there's marks on the cams, sprockets, but there's nothing to line them up with like on a lot of timing belted cars. But your chain has different colored links, so that's how you line these up. And you may have to rotate the crank another 360 degrees if you don't see the marks on your cam sprockets right here. And these are painted white from the previous repair that I did at 147,000 miles, and that was 7 years ago. And in my notes, I think I had written down, if you want to find the different colored links, some may be gold and some may be black. Can't remember for sure. I think it takes 3, you may have to rotate the crankshaft like 3 times because the chain's not really symmetrical, so it's not going to line up every time. You may have to rotate it 3 times to get your links onto your marks. So when you get that done, and then like I said, put it on top dead center on your crank pulley. And like I said, since there's really nothing to line the sprockets up with other than the different colored links on the chain, but look at the symmetry of the white painted marks. They really need to be more like here and over here. As you can see, they're both, since the chain is stretched, they're retarded, they're lagging. So that's another clue. And then I'll show the other way to check it. Okay, see that plunger right there with the teeth on the top? That is your automatic tensioner for the chain, and it sticks out of a kind of a square block, which I believe is spring loaded, and I think it also has oil pressure behind it. So the combination of the oil pressure and the spring that pushes out on that plunger against the timing chain guide right there and keeps the chain tight, and as the chain wears, it'll push out again and lock in those notches. It can't go backwards. It's kind of a ratcheting effect. Once it comes out, there's a little lock that locks in those notches, so it can't go backwards. So it should always keep the chain tight. Well, when the chain was new, that plunger only stuck out maybe a quarter or maybe 3/8 of an inch, and now it looks like it's sticking out probably at least an inch or more. So that tells you the chain is really worn because that plunger is sticking out so far. And I don't know if you can tell or not. There we go. But it ran out of teeth because it's probably sticking out as far as it can get, and it ran out of teeth because it's smooth there to the back. Let me get my screwdriver. See if that phone will sit right there. I don't think it will. Trying to use my headlamp. Okay. But see, you can move the chain around. It's got a lot of slop. And also, I was messing around with it. I rotated the crank just a little bit more, maybe an inch or so, and then this thing was really sloppy, and the plunger was moving up and down quite a bit too. So, and also this isn't really a guide on top. I mean, it kind of is, but it's broken. So the chain's probably been having a lot of slack in it as its engine's running and slapped up against the bottom of that and cracked it. You look at my notes, I believe that's all I need to tell you. Yeah, I believe that's it. So anyway, you know, that would be hard to diagnose if you didn't think to look for it, and that's how you can tell. So anyway, appreciate you watching the video, and you might check the drop down box, and if I think of anything else, I'll put a little note in there. Thanks for watching.